Growing Up on a Farm in Kentucky. Stories by Stan Schmidt. Episode 16. Wine Neighbor and Potato Boys.
Well, we never left the farm very often because my dad had to milk the cows twice a day, 7 days a week. And when we did, we had to be back about 4:30 to start milking the cows. One time we went to visit my cousins in southern Indiana. That took 2 to 3 hours to get back. So we always left their house earlier than we wanted to because we'd be having a lot of fun. And my dad says, we got to go milk the cows. And one time we came back, it was just starting to get dark. And as we pulled into our driveway, we noticed that our cellar door, which is outside the house, was open. And the next thing we knew, we looked, and there's this black man coming out of our cellar. And my dad apparently recognized him, but we didn't. He was a neighbor. He had never worked on our farm, so I didn't recognize him. But apparently he had gone into our cellar to get wine out of my dad's wine barrel. My dad always had a barrel of wine that he made in the cellar, and he came out, as they say, 2 sheets to the wind, which means he was pretty... He just kind of looked at us and kept on going. It was one of those southern things that may not happen in other localities.
Did your dad chase him?
No, he didn't say anything to him. We all just sat there and looked at him, and he walked down the road. So my dad would hire these kids. They were grade school kids. Some of them maybe younger than that. And we would plow a row of potatoes with a couple of mules and a single plow, and then we'd have to dig around in the dirt with our hands to find the potatoes. And there'd be a lot of weeds and dirt clumps. And so my dad hired, and he had all 5 of us boys out there. If he had a couple of acres of potatoes to dig, you can imagine he had to get it all done between milking the cows in the morning and milking cows in the evening. So he always worked very fast. And he could fill a bushel of potatoes with his big hands quicker than all 5 of us boys could fill a bushel of potatoes when we were little. So he hired a bunch of little black kids. I think there was like 3 of them, and each one was the same family, and the smallest one was pretty little. So we dug potatoes, and they all worked, and he paid you by the bushel. So much, I think it was about 50 cents a bushel. And I still remember those 3 little black boys standing there waiting for their pay, and Dad would ask them how many baskets they'd filled, and the bigger boys had both had at least 1 or 2 or 3 bushels. The biggest one had the most, and he was getting several dollars. The next one was getting dollars. But when he came to the little one, he hadn't filled even 1 basket up. And so my dad gave him, he says, well, I don't have any more dollars. And he gave him all the change he had in his pocket. It was about 60 or 70 cents. And this poor little boy started crying because he didn't get a dollar bill. And he wanted a dollar bill. If he had paid them in the other order, I think, paid the little one first, it wouldn't have happened. But it was kind of interesting. And my dad was like, I'm sorry. He didn't try to be prejudiced or anything, but he didn't have any other money. He'd given all the money in his pocket to the boys. So I thought it's something I can still see. I close my eyes, I can see those 3 boys standing there. Another experience of living in a rural area in the South. And I guess people nowadays would think there was some prejudice involved, but I never noticed it.
Do you think the 2 big kids took the little kids' potatoes to fill their baskets?
Well, that's possible. We never kept that close a track of them. Sometimes they'd be further down the row.